Hello fans and frenemies, Nate Drakenator here, and today I'm going to talk to you about my 10 least favorite warrior cats. I hope this video doesn't come across as too negative, so if one of these characters is one you like, I want you to know that this is just a character that I don't like. That doesn't mean you can't like them. Except for maybe Thistleclaw. I try not to make too many videos like this where it's like things I don't like. I'd rather be positive. But I don't know, a lot of people have asked for it, and well, I do have 10, so I thought I'd get into them. And then maybe explain why. So without further ado, let's make it happen. Number 10 is going to be Cinders. Cinders is Soul's mother, and she sucks. And the thing is like I said, this is a list of my 10 least favorite characters, and there's various reasons for that. In Cinder's case, I hate her, but I think that she's a good character, like, it makes sense in his backstory. So Soul's backstory is revealed in the Sky Clan and the Stranger manga, and just a side note, the mangas are all fantastically written. The art in some of them is beyond questionable, and even in the best ones is still Tokyo Pop art. Oh, yikes. But the stories are incredible. They're written by Dan Jolly, and he's very good. All of the mangas are fantastic. He's written all of them, including the ones at the end of Super Editions, and they're all amazing. His work he's definitely, like, if I had to choose a favorite Aaron hunter, like one of the Aarons, it's gonna be Dan Jolly from the mangas. He really crushes it with, like, narratives and character development. I always enjoy reading the mangas. In any case, so Soul reveals in his backstory that he was originally a rogue living, like, in Two Lake Place. He's just, like, living in a city, and his mom is a cat named Cinders, and they, like, live in an old tire, and their dad, like, is never there, and she's miserable, and she's really mean. And they make it very clear that she's, like, an abusive or neglectful parent. She tells them all these stories of, like, Sky Clan and the cool cats that were strong as lions and stuff. But, like, she doesn't even name her children. She has 4 of them, and she doesn't even name them. Soul specifically says that she didn't name them. Which is horrific! I mean, this is the only cat we know of that doesn't name kits, like, day 1. That's insane. So she doesn't name them, she's mean to them, and eventually when their dad leaves, like, he gets a new girlfriend, he's like, I'm out of here, Cinders, you suck. She's like, eh. And she takes them each to a different, like, two-leg house, leaves them on the steps, and tells them to mew until someone comes to get them, and just leaves and never looks back. So she's, like, terrible. She's always yelling at them, and she's mean. So, Cinders is an abusive parent. That's very clear. And the thing is, like I said, I think this works for Soul's backstory. I think it was a good inclusion. I don't think that, it's not like Thistleclaw where I'm like, man, you should have changed this, or you should have written this better. I'm like, nah, Cinders is a good character, but also I hate her, because she sucks. So, that's why she's number 10, is while I feel passionately that she's a demon, I do think that she was a good inclusion in his story. Number 9 is Brambleclaw. And this one is, it's not that I think he sucks or that he's horrible, and I mean, I feel like I've confused some people somehow because I've got, I've got my Aldershot AU where, like, you know, he's a really terrible father, potentially neglectful or abusive, and then I've got my Hollystar AU where he's, like, a great parent and he saves Hollyleaf's life. And I think people are confused because they feel like that because I wrote those AUs that that's how I feel about that character. And that's not correct. I don't think that Brambleclaw is abusive or neglectful. When I read Avos, I kind of got that feeling, but that doesn't mean that I saw it on the page. It just kind of felt that way to me, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I just got a vibe, even if it wasn't really there. At the end of the day, my problem with Brambleclaw, and the reason I don't like him, is that I just think he's kind of boring. I just don't think he's particularly well written. And, like, he was okay in The New Prophecy, I guess. I still didn't really like him, and I really think he's just too old for Squirrel Flight. Like, reading a warrior and like an apprentice clearly have a romantic arc, like the narrative is clearly pushing them, made me kind of uncomfortable. I mean, it was fine, I guess. I didn't really like it, so I wasn't really into it. And kind of a lot of his character arc was about that, and then the rest of his character arc was about, like, living up to his father's name, or living down his father's name or whatever, and I wasn't really feeling that either. And then the thing was, is I felt like his character arc should have kind of gone in the direction of him accepting that he didn't need to be deputy and letting it go, rather than him just sort of getting to be deputy, even though he did a bunch of horrible stuff. Like, he did train in the Dark Forest with an enemy warrior. Like, if you are messing around, if you're sneaking off away from your clan to hang out with people from a different clan, you're not a particularly loyal clan member, and maybe you shouldn't be deputy and future leader. I just don't think that Brambleclaw was ever leader material. He doesn't seem like he's very good at leadership. He doesn't seem like he really was interested in actually, like, being a leader. He just had aspirations to be leader and have a lot of power. And I feel like it kind of was lame, so I feel like it really undermined his entire character arc by letting him be leader. And then after he got deputy, they basically never let him have a personality again. I feel like in the past, like, since he became deputy, he hasn't had a personality at all. I mean, except for Lost Stars, where apparently we're getting into some stuff. So I'm willing to kind of like, ooh, with that one. But just my dislike for Brambleclaw is just that I don't find him very interesting. I find him really boring, and I feel like they haven't done anything interesting or engaging with him in such a long time that I find him kind of boring and annoying to read about. I'm just very tired of him. And there's so many other characters that we don't get any screen time with because we have to spend more time with Brambleclaw doing nothing new or interesting. And so that's kind of why I dislike Brambleclaw, is I just feel like he's underutilized, and that makes me really not want to read about him. Number 8 is going to be Arc 3 Leafpool. Now this one is kind of wiggly because Arc 2 Leafpool is one of my favorite characters. I absolutely adore her. She's fantastic. But as soon as Arc 3 begins, her entire character is gone. She's a completely different person. It blows my mind how much they changed her entire personality. Like, I read Leafpool's wish, and Yellowfang, when Yellowfang tells Squirrelflight, because I am blown away that Squirrelflight, when Yellowfang is like, hey, the best solution is for you to pretend that these are your kits and say that, you know, they're yours. And Squirrelflight is like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was kind of like surprised. The whole time I had thought that it must have been Squirrelflight's idea. It just seemed like something that she would suggest. Like, Leafpool has the babies, and then Squirrelflight is like, hey, I got an idea, I'll take them. But Squirrelflight didn't even want to do it. So Yellowfang tells her, actually, I wasn't going to tell you this, but you are infertile, so if you don't take these, you'll never have kids. And I was like, because the thing was, it was extremely clear that Yellowfang was lying. Like, the way it is written, you as the reader are supposed to pick up that Yellowfang is being dishonest. It's not just like, I know, it's that the author wanted to make sure that you knew. And also, they made it very clear that Leafpool knew. That Leafpool could tell that Yellowfang was lying to convince Squirrelflight. And Leafpool let her? And I found that unbelievably out of character. I guess it's not out of character because she did canonically do this, but I found that like, I couldn't believe that Leafpool had done that. I'm like, that doesn't seem like her at all. And then everything she did after she became a mother, I don't blame her for lying about who her children were. Absolutely, I think she was completely justified in that. She made the right call. What I think was a bad call is the horrific, unbelievable way she treated Jayfeather. Like, oh my god, she knows he's her son, he doesn't want to be a medicine cat, but she's constantly telling him that's his only choice, that that's the only thing he's allowed to do, that that's the only way he'll ever have any value in life. Oh my god, there's this horrific scene in Dark River where she's like, we have to save Cinderheart's leg, she has to be a warrior this time, and Jayfeather's like, Would it be so awful if she didn't get that to take that path this time? I didn't have a choice in what I did. Would it be so bad if she didn't get a choice this time? And Leafpool just like stares him down and she's like, Jayfeather, you are blind. And he just is so awash with shock that he turns away and it describes him as too wretched to speak. Horrible! Oh my god! She pressures him into being a medicine cat constantly. And then when he shows up and he's like, I need to be a medicine cat. Like, he's clearly upset. Something has changed his mind. And they're like, well, what changed your mind? He's like, nothing. Don't worry about it. She's like, okay, cool, thank you, I'm so glad. And I'm like, who is this? Who is this person? That's not Leafpool. I don't know this woman, and I don't like her. I found her to be horrific to Jayfeather, and Leafpool's wish sucks, but also horrific to her sister in that. And the rest she was fine. Just like, I think, bad writing. Most of it stems from just, like, ableism, but I really didn't enjoy it. Like I said, I love Arc 2 Leafpool. I think she's fantastic. She's one of my favorite characters. Y'all know I love Mothpool. They really did my girl dirty. Number 7 is Rainflower. Rainflower, like Cinders, is an abusive mother, abusive and neglectful. And now that I think about it, now that I'm looking at my list, it's kind of interesting that there's 2 abusive or neglectful mothers on here. I can't think of any male characters off the top of my head that were explicitly written as abusive or neglectful. Like, the narrative makes it very clear that Cinders and Rainflower are both very bad people. I feel like they kind of chickened out at the end and they sent Rainflower to StarClan and had Crookedstar forgive her, which shouldn't have. But they made it very clear that she was a bad person. I can't think of any male characters that they made very explicit were bad fathers and bad people. Like, they kind of wanted Crowfeather to be a bad person, but they didn't really want to at the same time. I'll get into that in a minute, but like, Rainflower is Crookedstar's mother, and she's awful. Like, when he breaks his jaw, she begins ignoring him. She won't talk to him. She won't let him, you know, when he's a little baby, she won't let him sit with her in the nursery. He has to sit alone in the corner, and she names him from Stormkit to Crooked Kit, and she hates him, and she's mean. And she sucks, and I hate her. Again, like Cinders, she works in the narrative. My only problem is that I feel like they did chicken out at the end, and they went with this, oh, the abused child forgives their mother for abusing them, and I'm like, I really think that's a bad message to send. If you have ever been treated poorly by a parent or abused or neglected, you don't really need to forgive them. I mean, there's moving on for your own sake, and then there's, like, forgiving them and rebuilding a relationship, which you don't always have to do. You don't always owe them that. And I really feel that Crookedstar did not owe Rainflower his forgiveness. She never did anything to deserve it. There was never, like, a moment where she apologized and was like, realized what she did was wrong. So why would you forgive her? To her dying breath, she hated him. So, like, send her to the Dark Forest. I think she sucks. I don't think that she should go to the StarClan. She sucks. Number 6, we're gonna go with Ashfur. Y'all probably all know how I feel about Ashfur. He's a jerk. And he tried to kill 3 children and the leader of his clan because a girl he wasn't even dating kind of dumped him like 5 years ago. The big thing about Ashfur is that I genuinely think he could have been a really good villain. I feel like if they had committed to making him like a jerk, they could have made him a really good and interesting villain about someone who hangs on to jealousy, or even about how sometimes there's that kind of guy out there who does that. Like, we see it in the news. Guys who can't handle rejection. And obviously, you know, yada yada yada, not all men, but like, Ashfur's one of those guys. And I feel like they could have made that a really interesting, compelling villain, where he was very scary, but they really chickened out and they sent him to StarClan because he was a protagonist character at one point, so they didn't want to demonize him, and I feel like that really undermined the entire thing and the arc, and it kind of sucked. It was really lame. Like, that's the reason I don't like Ashfur. Like, the fire scene is cool. Ashfur being a crazy murderer is cool. Like, I like villains. We should have villains in a story. If you don't have any villains, then what's going on? Nothing is happening, you know? I like villains. Darktail is really well written. Darktail's really cool. I love Darktail. And I would like Ashfur if they had made Ashfur a villain, but they didn't want to make him a villain, so he shows up and he's like, hey, I tried to murder 4 people. And they're like, cool. Welcome to StarClan. And I'm like, number 5 is going to be Crowfeather, and I'm sure you all expected him higher on this list, but Crowfeather's trial was really good, what can I say? The thing about Crowfeather was, until Crowfeather's trial, I felt that Crowfeather was mean, and bad, and mean. I feel like most of his character and personality was mean, and he never really got punished for that ever. Like, he got a lot of screen time, the narrative really liked him, he randomly fell in love with Leafpool, like, that didn't make any sense. I'm like, it all was really lame. And I felt like he got way too much screen time for a character who never did anything particularly nice to anyone, or particularly interesting to me. And I feel like Crowfeather had a lot of potential. Like, he did have a lot of death. His father, Deadfoot, died, and then obviously Ashfoot died, and they made that very important in Crowfeather's trial. But, like, Deadfoot died, he had a sibling die, at least one. Like, he just had a lot of death in his childhood, and then obviously Feathertail died, and she was someone he felt very close to, though I really don't like shipping them together. She's way too old for him. Then, just like the complication with Leafpool, which for him made like, it didn't make sense that he randomly fell in Leafpool, but him randomly falling in love with someone and wanting to run away, I guess, does make sense. Like, he's still grieving over someone he was close to, and he's rebounding, but I don't think that that's a real... I don't think he was in love with her. I think he was just like a rebound. He was desperate to be loved or to make things feel better after Feathertail's death. So I can buy that. And then, like, Nightcloud and everything going wrong, like, it all follows a narrative, but the narrative seemed to not acknowledge that, like, which felt disconnected to me and made me frustrated reading about him. And, like, the big thing is that when we got to Omen of the Stars, and even before then, they wanted to write 2 separate things. They wanted, for Breezepelt, they wanted to write Breezepelt as abused or neglected. It's really clear when you see the way Breezepelt acts, is that whenever they were writing him and the way he behaves, they wanted the reader to take away that this was a child who was treated poorly by his father. But then they didn't want to actually write Crowfeather as abusive or neglectful. So you had this bizarre situation where Breezepelt behaved not like a child who was, like, spoiled and hated his parents who weren't bad, but a child who clearly showed signs of being abused or neglected by specifically his father, but then a father who wasn't abusing or neglecting him in any way. Which is really bizarre to read. And it made the whole thing feel disconnected and strange. So it was so utterly difficult to read because, like, how are you as a reader supposed to read it? Like, what are you supposed to take away? How are you supposed to put those 2 things together? And then at the end they changed their mind and decided Breezepelt was just a smarmy child. But if you look at his early behavior and his early interactions and then his later ones, they just don't mesh. It just doesn't, it's not consistent. Which is why I really find Crowfeather and Breezepelt just annoying to read about, because they're inconsistent and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, I just find them really annoying to read about because I'm constantly, like, questioning what the authors want me to take away from these characters. How am I supposed to read this? I literally cannot tell. And I really would just like to move on to other characters who are, like, have less baggage. Like, Crowfeather and Breezepelt both just have so much baggage as characters at this point. Like, I don't know what you could do to make me really like them other than Crowfeather's trial, which made me... it was really good. Really, like, within the first chapter, they'd established, the narrative was like, no, Crowfeather is a jerk. Like, he's a huge jerk and an asshole. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's all I really wanted, is that the narrative is like, no, he is mean. Like, he is kind of a jerk. And I'm like, okay, I'm willing to entertain the story now. I'm willing to be invested in his plot, because all I want is the narrative to stop trying to convince me, or stop trying to tell me that I'm reading him wrong for being like, oh, he's kind of mean. Like, I feel like I'm constantly being punished by a book for thinking a character is mean. The loyal Crowfeather, like every 5 sentences. Shut up! Number 4 is Duskstar. And y'all know from my Dark Forest video that I hate Duskstar. Duskstar, also Darkstar. I really think they retconned his name, because originally he was called Darkstar, but there are 3 Darkstars, and 2 of them are in RiverClan. So they changed his name in Cloudstar's Journey to Duskstar. I think that was a good choice. It was a good call. He is the one that made it illegal to question your leader. Like, he gave away a bunch of Sky Clan's land to Thunder Clan for basically no reason, and then when someone in his clan was like, whoa, you sure you don't want to think about that? He was like, never talk back to me again. I'm making it a new part of the warrior code that a leader's word is the warrior code, and that going against them is illegal. Which, let's be super clear, if you make it illegal to question the government, you are evil. That is an evil act. This is why Broken Star had power. I consider Duskstar directly responsible for the reason that Broken Star could not be deposed, even though his clan wanted the leader gone. Star Clan was like, no, that's your leader. Like, if the group of people being governed want the governor gone, he's gone. He should be deposed. Anyway, I hate Duskstar. He sucks. He should have gone to the Dark Forest, because he sucks. Number 3 is going to be Appledusk. You all know how I feel about Appledusk. I don't need to get too much into Appledusk. Appledusk cheated on his wife, and he cheated on Mapleshade. Mapleshade specifically mentions in Chapter 10 that Reachine is at a level of pregnant that she would have had to have been pregnant before Mapleshade's kits died. Which means it is 100% canon that he was cheating on them. I am shocked that Reachine was not upset that he was cheating on her. Very annoyed. But not only did he cheat on them, but when she was like sobbing, moist, had a concussion, was nearly dead, and her 3 dead babies are at her feet, he sold her up the river and was like, you know, oh, she never mattered, she was an accident, I never cared about her, I'm a loyal RiverClan warrior, she's disgusting, get her out of here. Like, that's evil. Should have gone to the Dark Forest. Anyway, I'm not going to get too into Appledusk because I have before, but he sucks. Number 2 is, again, Oakstar. Again, if you want to hear all my opinions on Oakstar, just go ahead and go to my Dark Forest video. It's the same stuff. He sucks. He just sucks. He should have been punished. What he did was unbelievably evil. He 100% knew that he was sending those kids to his death. He broke the warrior code. The Mapleshade's kits were 2 months old, and every single option of places she could go ran a significant risk of them dying. Putting a child in danger is against the warrior code. They were 2 months old. He knew what he did. And then number 1 is Thistleclaw. Every other character I'm totally willing to have like debates and discussion. Thistleclaw sucks. In Blue Star's Prophecy, I guess he was okay. Oh my god, as soon as they wrote Spotted Leaf's Heart, it was out. Spotted Leaf's Heart is just badly written. I genuinely believe that Spotted Leaf's Heart had the potential to be a very good book. I think that with more tact and more time and more care, this could have been a good book that could have helped a young reader recognize the signs of what child grooming looks like, because they'll read that book and they'll go, okay, Thistleclaw is a bad person, and this is something Thistleclaw is doing. I see that that's bad, and it could help them recognize those signs in real life. If someone does something similar, they go, hey, wait a second, I remember. That's what fiction can do, especially young like, fiction and stories meant for children, like warriors, are often supposed to help educate them. Like, you should have stories like this that help them recognize signs of things, like, that help them learn what's good and what's bad and how to recognize signs of stuff. Just in general, like, everything a young person consumes is going to be a learning opportunity for them. And you do have a responsibility to be teaching things that aren't horrible. Spotted Leaf's Heart was a good opportunity because it's a more obscure side novel. There's nothing really revealed in it, so you aren't missing anything if you skip it. So if it's a little bit, like if it would be a little traumatic for you to read, you aren't going to be missing the story. And it was an ebook exclusive, and then it was published in a collection of 3, but you can skip it. And it's a little bit harder to get a hold of, and it's not mainline. I feel like this was the perfect opportunity to write this story, and I feel genuinely that it could have been really good if you potentially had a Blue Star noticing the signs and trying to help Spotted Leaf, like an adult character, talking to her so you could see, she could talk through it, and the reader would see exactly what's going on and not just exclusively see it from the victim's perspective, who is going to see everything as fine. And then the problem was, at the end of Spotted Leaf's Heart, Thistleclaw was never demonized for preying on a child and ultimately being a pedophile, but for choosing the Dark Forest over her, which is beyond questionable. The reason that Thistleclaw is condemned by the narrative, the reason he goes to the Dark Forest, is because Spotted Paw says, you have to choose either me or the Dark Forest, and he chooses the Dark Forest. And choosing her should have been the bad thing to do, and it wasn't. And that's the bad writing. And I genuinely feel that Spotted Leaf's Heart had the opportunity to be something helpful, something good, something educational. And ultimately, it wasn't. And as much as I like the many other things Vicky has written, because she has done wonderful things, she really fucked this one up. And she didn't seem to have ever, in every comment she said about it, she doesn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with it. And I'm truly disappointed because I really like a lot of her other stuff. She wrote Maple Shade's Vengeance, she wrote Pine Star's Choice, and those are my favorites. And I have no idea how she managed to goof this one up so badly and never see it. And I am ultimately disappointed. In any case, Thistleclaw sucks. He sucks. There's no redeeming quality to this character. If you like Thistleclaw, like, I can't fathom any reason why that isn't, like, gross. Thistleclaw sucks. I hate this man. Those are my bottom 10 least favorite Warrior Cats characters. I don't like them. So I guess let me know which characters you dislike reading about, but try to keep it positive. Don't be super negative, and in the comments, like, I don't like to be super negative and complaining and drama llama or whatever, And, again, if you like any of these characters other than Thistleclaw, I'm really sorry if, I don't want you to take it too personally. You could still like them. I just don't. That's all for this time. Later.